pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming in, and happy Valentine's Day to all of you. We have several minutes to approve. The first being the January 24th non-public meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 24th non-public meeting minutes number 1.
Okay, Ted moves. Is there a second?
I will second.
And seconds. Any discussion?
Yes. I don't see in these minutes where we went into the first non-public session. So I see the 4:30 opening, but then not the 4:42 we went into non-public.
In the regular meeting minutes, you mean?
Correct.
We had two non-publics that night, one that started at the beginning of the meeting.
Yep, and so I see the second one in the minutes, but I don't see the first one in the minutes.
So when you get to those set of minutes, you might want to just make note that that needs to be added.
But it needs to be added to these minutes.
These minutes have it.
No, these minutes don't have it,
Right. It needs to be added to the regular meeting minutes.
which is the ones we're discussing.
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
Oh, we're discussing the non-public minutes one. Okay, yeah. So it's these minutes that I don't see referenced in the other minutes.
Right.
The reason I happen to notice that is the details on these minutes don't match my recollection of what we discussed in that session. So I was trying to figure out if I was confused.
What's your recollection?
Non-public.
Well, my recollection is not that we went into non-public on the same topic twice in one night, which is what seems to be in front of us.
We did.
I think we did.
We did.
So in both sessions, we discussed the exact same thing?
The first session, your two department heads were not there. The second session, you had them stay at the end of the meeting, and you discussed it again with them at the second meeting.
Okay, so the first session was
They
for
weren't
that reason?
present, yep. And the second session, they were present.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I said it. Ted, you must,
You weren't at the first meeting, and then you didn't know about it.
Oh, okay.
But he can
Okay.
make a motion, the original motion?
oh,
You made the original motion.
yeah, I guess you did, didn't you?
I'll make a motion, we approve the non-public meeting number 1 from January 24th.
All right, you were the initial second, but is there
I
a
can
second?
second.
There you go.
Okay. Just looking for a look from Ann, but I guess we're all.
Sorry. Missed that one.
All right, so, non-public meeting number 2, January 24th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the non-public meeting minutes number 2 from January 24th.
Okay, moved, and is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Third order of business, we have January 24th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 24th regular meeting minutes.
Ted moves, is there a second?
Second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion?
So I think these minutes need to be amended both to include the note of when we went into non-public, because it's not here. But we also discussed, the whole reason we met early at 4:30, because we did meet early at 4:30, was to discuss the change in the allocation to the nonprofit organizations. That's That's why we met at 4:30, and
Right.
it's not in the minutes.
Okay. All right. Noted. Okay. All right, with that amendment or alteration, is there any further discussion? All those in favor with that amendment, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay, last, we have the February 3rd, 2022 work session minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 3rd, 2022 work session minutes.
Ted moves, is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? None, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The Plymouth Selectboard has authorized the posting of the following list of roads for a 10-ton load limit during the period of March 1st through May 1st, 2022. The purpose of this posting is to prevent unreasonable damage to the roadways, which may result in hazards to the public safety and/or possible extraordinary maintenance expenses to the community. And the roads are Bartlett Road, Reservoir Road, Texas Hill, Morse, Thurlow Street, Bell Road, Cummings Hill, Sanborn, Chason, Loon Lake Road, Parker Street, and Texas Hill twice. Please direct any questions, comments, or concerns to the Plymouth Highway Department at 536-1623. And all the following regular meetings will begin at 5 p.m. We're going to be meeting on Monday, February 28th, Monday, March 14th, and also the 28th. We're going to have a public hearing to be held during the regular select board meeting, February 28th at 5:15 p.m. Review the status of the downtown stormwater project design for Main Street, Russell Street, Warren Street, and Pleasant Street. And on February 24th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m., we have a Meet the Candidates evening in store for those running for office in the municipality. All the above meetings will be at the Plymouth Town Hall. And any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before noon, the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Furthermore, town offices will be closed on Monday, February 21st, 2022, in observance of President's Day. Next, we have Alex Hutchins regarding a PO for Cambridge Computer Dell PowerEdge R340 server. Excuse me.
Good evening.
Hey, Alex.
So in front of you should have 3 quotes for a new server. So what I'm looking to do is to replace the server at the police department. Not only is it for the police officers, it's also for our regional dispatch center too. Our current server was installed in 2018, and years after years we've been asking the server to do more and more work, and it's tired, it's running out of memory, and it's time to get replaced. So the 3 quotes that I got, our IT provider right now is Stellar Networking, but the Cambridge Computers out of Mass actually came in much lower than the other quotes. So I think it's the same equipment, it's just different company can get it for less, and there must be a large retail reseller of Dell. So yeah, just looking at, it's obviously cheaper than the other 2 quotes, so.
It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. A couple grand. Okay.
And it sounds like, I believe the university uses Cambridge or has used Cambridge computers to purchase equipment before.
It was my vendor of choice.
Yeah, very nice people.
Wow. So it sounds like you have at least the backer, but, so therefore, is there any questions or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase for the Dell PowerEdge R340 server from Cambridge Computer at the price of $5976.54.
Okay, is the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? So how can Cambridge undersell like Dell? Because Dell usually has sales going up the zoo.
Basically, when you go to Dell's website, you're getting basically the list price. But Cambridge or other VARs get special discount pricing based on their volume. And so that's what you're seeing.
Okay.
I can only imagine what Stellar Networks doesn't have,
They don't have the volume. down.
or they're keeping a little more in the pocket for themselves.
Could be.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Hey, it's pretty darn close. Huh.
How'd that happen?
I don't know.
Just looking.
Got 3 minutes.
Well planned.
Marianne, you didn't like the halftime that much, or?
No, it's fine. I was shocked by more their age.
Yeah. Again, we conversed about this, but, my daughter, who's 21, likes Snoop Dogg. I feel that guy's like 75, 80, I don't know.
He looks that way.
Yeah. All right, we're almost there.
Since we're killing 2 minutes,
Oh, we got 1 minute. Oh, yeah, we got to.
since we're killing 100 seconds, the road closings showing up on here,
Yeah.
it seems strange to me that we didn't, not that I would adjust a single thing about that, right? But it seems strange to me that it didn't come to us first and us say yes. Instead, it showed up as an announcement that we had authorized something.
Well, that's like a joke call, you know?
I agree that it's a Joe call, in the same way that buying a new dump truck is a Joe call. But when the announcement says the Plymouth Select Board has authorized, but we never necessarily did that, it seems strange, procedurally. If Joe has the authority, then it should say the highway department has closed, right?
True.
But if it's us who's doing it, it feels like we should have done it. Again, not that I would change a thing. If Joe wants
Do you
to,
have the authority to do it?
The thing is, like, generally, the roads and welfare fall to the select board.
Right, oh,
So,
gotcha.
Select
Right.
board, yeah, so theoretically, I think maybe Joe either can consult with it or just state that the highway department will close the following roads.
I mean, maybe there was a past authorization that gave him the authority to do it, but still. I don't know. It struck me as odd when I saw it on the agenda.
Is it worthy of clarifying or fixing, or, oh geez, it's 5:15.
Oh, there we go.
But I think Kathy and Ann got the gist of that discussion. Okay, so it is 5:15. I'm opening a public hearing The Plymouth Selectboard welcomes all present to this public hearing to discuss a petition warrant article to be voted on at March town meeting to allow the operation of Keno games within the town. Is there someone here to talk more about the operation? Okay, we got a taker. And after you probably give a synopsis of what we're going to be doing, then we'll just open it up for public comment.
Sure. Good evening, members of the Select Board. My name is Charlie McIntyre. I have the privilege of being the director of the New Hampshire Lottery for the last 11 and a half years during operation. This is a request, I believe it was done once before with you folks, to approve the language for your town meeting to vote upon by the citizens to approve Keno for the town of Plymouth. That's it in a nutshell. Happy to answer your questions about the game, its history, its anything about it.
Okay. I think it was twice before.
Okay, yeah. So 89 towns and cities have approved it so far. So about 60% of the population has. Like Manchester has approved it, Nashua has approved it. Those obviously represent large population bases.
And I understand that the game itself, monies go back to usually the restaurant. It will go back to the proprietor, the owner. And,
Yes. So they make about 8 cents on the dollar. But one of the benefits is if a player wins $100, that money usually circulates in the bar in the form of, a dessert or a tip to the bartender. Bartenders tend to do pretty well with it, and then they're fans of it, candidly.
Is there any questions from?
No, none in particular.
Okay.
Well, how many people? I'm just looking to see might be on TV there or on the Zoom call. I'm just wondering if anyone would rise in favor of Keno, or have any opinion one way or the other on implementing it. Now, this is for a warrant article, and the warrant article is going to be on the town meeting.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion?
So it was turned down twice before?
Yeah. And is it in Campton, or isn't there a couple other nearby towns?
It's in Laconia. It's in Bridgewater, Center Harbor. So those are the closest places it is.
We're in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Bridgewater Inn and Tavern.
Bridgewater what?
Inn and Tavern?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yep. All right.
So these are only held at restaurants, is that how?
So the only place that can be hosted is a actively pouring place that serves alcohol, so a bar. It's not like a convenience store can't sell it that sells beer. It has to be an actively pouring bar. And there's delineations of licenses that exist like that. Most cities or towns that have it, like 1 in 4 bars will want it. So like Chili's, Uno's, it's not in their corporate structure. Obviously we believe, we allow them to choose what they want. And so like Plymouth, if Plymouth had 10 active bars, you'd probably have 2 or 3 that would want it. I do know there was somebody who reached out, a citizen who runs a tavern here named Dave Chapman, who asked us to come up and speak on his behalf. And he said he might be here, but he had 2 folks calling sick apparently, so he couldn't make it. But
Okay.
that's the one person I know for your community that was interested in it.
Okay. Well, any other discussion, input? Yes, we have.
Any
sir.
downsides?
Oh, could you name,
Sorry, Bruce Wiggett.
Oh, sure.
Any particular downsides to running a program like this?
I haven't seen any. And so we've been selling Keno for a number of years now. Prior to my life here, I was the assistant director of the Massachusetts Lottery, which is the largest Keno selling lottery on the planet Earth. And I saw no issues there, so not that I've seen. I mean, certainly there are issues regarding responsible gambling, and we make a point of that, but Keno's not a game that incites that or causes that. It's very slow. It's more of a social thing at a bar where you play numbers and you goof and laugh with each other.
Okay. Any other input from anyone?
Bill, can I talk on Zoom?
Yeah, sure.
You mean Lee?
What's the benefit to the town if we allow Keno? The town get a cut of the money, or?
Well, certainly your town gets the revenue from us based on whatever formula comes from the State House. So if you get adequacy grants, about 20% of the adequacy grant that comes from the Department of Education is actually our money. So in the last year, we produced about $10 million of profitability for Keno, and your city or town would get its share of that pot. Moreover, the business that hosts Keno, we did a study about a year and a half ago that was done by UNH, and they found that of all the bars and taverns that did it, over 3/4 had seen a lift in their other business. So they like it as an additional revenue stream as well as a reason to stay and be there and spend more money. So they found it as a boon, as a benefit to the business, in some cases very significantly.
Okay. Thank you.
I got off easy.
What's that?
I said I got off easy. Thanks for roasting me.
All right, thank you. Thank you, sir. And seeing no other discussion, no other comments, what time is it anyway? I'm closing the public hearing at 5:22 and bring it back to the board. Okay. Scott Whedon, would you like to discuss town meeting COVID protocols, please?
I'll sit back here, but I'll speak up if I need.
Okay. Good evening.
Hey, Scott.
Back on February 3rd, I had sent Kathy an email just thinking town meeting's approaching. We probably ought to talk about COVID and any protocols that the town wanted to put in place with regards to town meeting. So Josie was very helpful and forwarded me the Secretary of State's webinar that was put on with regards to this year's election. And the one thing that they kept coming back with is that keep in mind that the state of New Hampshire public health emergency has expired. So there's no requirements for elections, polling, town meeting that are currently in place. And really spoke to the sort of the moderator has very broad authority on what protocols the moderator wants to put in place. So with that being said, I contacted Kyla up at SAU 48 with regards to the Plymouth school campuses. And at that time, they had a policy in place that if a cluster or outbreak was to happen, that they would be masking. Since then, on February 9th, they've lifted all masking requirements at the Plymouth school campuses. And on campus now, it's optional if you want to wear a mask. And speaking to her about the school meeting that will take place is there will not be any masking based on this new protocol that was put in place on February 9th. And they will have the chair spaced 6 feet apart, so they will maintain some social distancing. So with that said, my next question to her was, well, we understand these are school facilities, but can we, as a town, if choose to, require a mask? And she said that's optional. That's totally up to what the town would like to do, was the answer I received today. So with that said, I looked to the moderator to see what his thoughts are with regards to both the elections and town meeting. You still can have the curbside voting if somebody doesn't want to wear a mask, if masks are required to come in and be able to do that. But Bob, I don't know if you want to offer any guidance or information with regards to what your thoughts are.
As far as the town meeting, I feel that the number of people that attend a town meeting, it would be near impossible to go 6 feet apart. So I would suggest strongly that we have a mask mandate for the meeting. As far as the election, I would be willing to have a section someplace inside where people without a mask would be able to come and go, and maybe not do it outside or do it outside. I have to figure that out. But I still feel that the number of people that could be there in line, it would be hard to keep 6 feet apart and have social distancing, and I would prefer to have masks required for both. And I would make accommodations for those who do not wish to wear a mask.
Wish to wear a mask at the election or at the town meeting?
At the election. At the town meeting, it would have to be on because there are too many people in the place.
So a question that arises is, if you require masks at town meeting, do you have to have an alternate means of voting on warrant articles for those that choose not to wear a mask, or is that not required?
It's a very good question. I like the Zoom that we did last time because it made it a lot easier. But I do believe we're at a point where we should be getting close to people being able to be out. That's one I'd have to check with the state, because I would say that we're disenfranchising people from the right to vote, and I would do anything I could not to do that.
So with that said, I think that's the question that has to be asked, on the feeling of the board on how you want to move forward with that. But I thought it was a good idea to have a conversation so we can get it figured out and put in place prior to running around last minute and trying to put protocol in place for COVID measures at town meeting.
Bob, what do you think about a no mask section of seating that's sort of separated?
If I could wall it off somehow, but any votes that we have where people would be able to come, and if it is a yes/no vote,
Yeah, balloted vote as opposed to a,
that would create, maybe we'd have to have 2 boxes, one in the, if we could cordon off some way with some type of screening or something so that we could still do it, I would be happy to have a no mask section. But you're still risking everybody else in that room. It's gonna take some thought.
I know in the past, we mandated mask usage because it was a school requirement. And if it's no longer a school requirement, but yet the town says you shall wear a mask in a town building at this point in time. And then would we consider that like basically a town business that we're doing in the school?
Because we're utilizing that business, that building at that time, it becomes a town building for that purpose, I would say.
Yeah.
Is there the possibility of using a different venue that is bigger so that we could have the kind of spacing we need?
Where is there a larger facility?
Well, I was thinking like the high school auditorium would be, because it's got all those bleachers, might be big enough.
I mean, the gym.
The gym.
Plymouth doesn't.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
auditorium.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
on the regional school, and that's one of the reasons why the election is in the Plymouth building, the Plymouth Elementary School. I'm not saying they wouldn't say yes to us, I'm just saying that is, we've talked in the past about trying to find a larger facility that we could have done last year instead of Zoom, and there are no facilities. I mean, the field house would be ideal, but it's in Holderness. It doesn't meet the guideline. We don't have a space big enough.
So Bob, are you gonna be looking, are you gonna question who? The Secretary
Well,
of
the
State?
state of New Hampshire is saying, well, there's no mandate in place, so it's up to the community,
Okay.
okay? If there was emergency mandate in place, then that would take precedence, but it's totally up to us. And, as I said, it's a touchy situation because I don't want to disenfranchise anybody from a right to vote.
Yep.
But But I also don't want to put people at risk because somebody has a philosophy that feels that they don't have to wear a mask. So I would say, I would prefer to have the town meeting mask. Absolutely. And if you do decide that you want a section of unmasked people, they would have to be cordoned off somehow so that there'd be plenty of distance between them and everybody else. And I would probably open 2 ballot boxes for any yes/no vote in separate sections of the gymnasium. But I think that's the best way to be able to handle it. But I have no idea what the percentage of people would be without masks versus the number of people that would be masked. So how to set up the room would be real interesting.
Right, what would that cornered off piece look like?
Well, it'd have to be one section. Maybe-
Right.
Maybe on the left-hand side of the building, you know, set back off by itself, and then everybody else with a mask on the other side. It doesn't matter which way, one or the other.
Right, but are we talking real walls with some
Not
sort
real
of
walls, but
glass?
if we could drop some vinyl or something, clear vinyl or something, I don't know. I don't know if we'd need to do that, but maybe just a distancing far enough away. Maybe there's 20 feet from everybody in that section.
So just make an extra wide middle area.
Yeah, I mean, I could live with that. We have to have microphones in both places.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be accommodated.
Would we do separate entry?
Yeah, we could do that, because there are 3 entrances into the gymnasium.
True.
That would work.
I was just thinking out loud to myself, for everything you just said, isn't there like the cafeteria in the gym that like abuts the gym?
It does, but it's not open anymore. They walled it off.
Oh.
It used to be open, now there's glass there.
I haven't been there in a while, so
Yeah.
I didn't know if you could put those people that were unmasked in there, where you wouldn't have to build any walls or anything, do your ballot and there's.
We could do that and have a video way of dealing with them in that room.
Simulcast to the 2 locations.
Simulcast, that would work. Because they could watch through the glass the proceedings, and we could see whether they wanted to ask a question and have a microphone in there.
We could also possibly turn the orientation so that instead of people
Yeah.
sitting,
Your back wouldn't be toward them, you'd be.
yeah, you'd sit on the, towards the south end of the,
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to build any walls or anything.
Right.
It's kind of contained. You can put them in a separate entrance too that way.
Yep. Yep. We can make that work, as long as the school let us use that part of the facility also. We tried to get them to do that prior, and they weren't gonna let us use the cafeteria, so we'd have to do some negotiating with the school.
Yeah, the reason they haven't in the past is because they want the cage or something to separate the school.
That's true
We
too.
can still get in without the cage, because
There's
the
a
cage
door.
is in the hallway.
There one door right there, yeah.
And as long as we have them come in, we could have everybody come in the door that goes directly into the gym, and everybody else come in that door and into the caf. That would be easy to be done. I think it could be arranged.
Yep.
And then I'm not, if the school is closed on election day, and I don't know whether they are or not,
They're not.
they are not.
They are not.
um,
It's not on their school calendar that they're closed.
Right. I was gonna say, because that's what we had talked about before, it would have been ideal to be able to use the cafeteria for the non-masked people. Their other concern is deep cleaning that facility after.
Conveniently, we have Kylo Welch.
That's right.
Hey. Is that they were concerned about deep cleaning that facility after people left, which they may have to do in the gymnasium anyways, I'm not sure.
So Kyla, have you been hearing the discussion that we've been having?
No, I just walked in. I'm sorry. The girls just won their ski champ, so I had to go outside and wave to everybody real quick. So sorry I'm a little late.
One of the perks of your position, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So what were you discussing?
We're discussing access to, perhaps the cafeteria at PES. during town meeting and voting.
Okay,
And, but which is in addition to what we've had access to before, which was just the gymnasium.
okay.
Just for town meeting, right? We're not talking about for voting?
I'll-
No, it's just because the voting day, there's school in session, so that wouldn't be
That
possible.
one would be possible.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Gotcha.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Town meeting we're talking about right now. What I want to do is I want to have non-mask people in one facility and everybody else in the other, because I expect to have both. I don't want to disenfranchise anybody from a right to vote. So that's what we're looking, if we could put people in some way of simulcasting in there, or they can look through the glass to be able to participate in the meeting, and microphones, so that I can separate people. That's what I'm looking to figure out how to do.
Okay,
And if that's possible, that would save one of my problems. And my other problem is election day. You're in session.
yes.
So that would have been ideal to have a voting place for non-masked voters, but I'll have to figure out something else for unmasked voters that day. And I think what I'll do is I'll just have a separate entrance and have them in a separate part of the room. I should be able to accommodate that for the number of voters we'll have.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I think we can definitely accommodate you for the town meeting piece, to have the cafeteria and the gym. I would just ask that whoever is setting it up, if they can call Tanya Orlando just to see what you need for equipment.
Yep,
That work?
yep.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Good.
Thanks. So next up on the list, you have Kyla Welsh, Lisa Ash, and Amy Lee. We were gonna have a discussion, probably just to make certain that we kind of like open up, I guess, lines of communication, because we tend to kind of work in a vacuum with specifically schools' formation of a budget and towns' formation of a budget, and then to try to, deal with the outcome with, town citizens. So I was just wondering if we might at least attempt open communication, maybe periodic meetings, or just touching base, which we historically don't do.
Yes, Amy, you could speak to that too. We just talked about this at the Plymouth Elementary board meeting, just casually, a few of us saying that that would be definitely helpful periodically to meet together. As far as the high school board, Lisa, do you want to speak to that? You touch base with most folks, right?
I would say that they would like open lines of communication as well. The tricky part would always be is, the school funding is sometimes something we have to jump at, whether it's an 80-20 split with the feds. We want to make an improvement to the technical center, and now we get an 80-20 split, and 80% is paid by the feds, and we're going to jump at that opportunity and not miss out that year because the roads are getting done. And miss out on the 80% cut that we would get with them, because the following year would have to pay at 100%. So it's just tricky things like that, or Chromebooks that are getting reimbursed, or grants that are coming in. I feel like the high school board does a really great job at towing the line, but sometimes it's hard to say this year we'll go easy, next year we won't. It just cannot sometimes work that way.
Okay. So regardless, I think it would be kind of, I don't think we have to have a rigid schedule, but, maybe around budget time or near budget time, we should be able to have, sit down and have discussions.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And I would appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Does Kyla have an update from the school?
Just a general update.
Yes. That you would like
Well,
to share?
We've got all kinds of things going on in the schools. We have gone through most of our budget hearings. We had a very low turnout at the Plymouth Elementary hearing, probably mostly due to the weather, I'm assuming. It was that pretty slick night. We had our deliberative session for the Penny Baker board and the hearing, which both went really well. As far as the budget in Plymouth and Amy, at Plymouth Elementary, and Amy, you can speak up if you'd like. Overall, there's going to be a 0% increase overall with appropriations and revenue taken into consideration. There is a teacher's agreement on the warrant article, and it's a 4-year agreement. So that's the only big piece. There's still going to be a warrant article allowing for any additional funds at the end of the year to be transferred into their capital reserve fund that was put into place a few years ago. For the high school, again, fairly simple warrant. The appropriations is up about I don't have it on me, a little over 2%, and then is right, Lisa? That's where we're at with Penny Baker. And then again, a 4-year contract for the teachers at the high school as well. So those are the only big warrant articles that are out there. We don't have anything else. The only piece that came up as a question in the past few days were folks concerned about a warrant article at the town in regards to the school resource officer being put on a separate warrant article. So I thought now would be a great time to ask about that.
Well, we have a chief and deputy chief here, but was that?
I think the question that came in, Kyla, was what would happen if that warrant article did not pass?
Yes, I have had several folks call and say, we raised the appropriations both on Plymouth Elementary side and the high school side. And then the town has a warrant article with kind of the school resource officer out on its own. So if it doesn't pass, what does that mean?
And my response to that individual when they called was that I'm sure that resource officer would still be a member of the Plymouth Police Department. They would have to find the funding to cover that position for a full year versus just 25% of the year. The same thing would happen as because we're getting funding from an outside source, we have to have that as an outside separate warrant article. The same thing would happen, what happens if the police department budget does not pass with it being out there by itself. My response to them was I would think that the board at that point would petition for a special town meeting for that. So those separate warrant articles have to be out there by themselves because we are getting money either from capital reserves or other places to offset those expenses.
So the SRO article has always been out on its own?
Absolutely, yep.
Year after year, okay, so that's nothing new.
No,
Okay, thank you for that. And then as far as any other updates in the school, I don't have anything else as far as we're kind of we're deferring a lot of our maintenance and capital projects at the elementary school. We're going to be using some ESSER funds, which are the COVID relief funds for both the high school and for the elementary to update most of our HVAC systems and to address some of our capital improvement needs that we've had in there for quite a while that we haven't been able to address. So we have a few years to address that once we can find a vendor and lock that in. So that should be challenging as well.
Okay. All right, anything from the board? Any questions?
Nope.
I was just thinking about your budget meeting. You said it was like sparsely attended, and that was
Yep.
due to the weather. Well, historically, they're generally sparsely attended. I think.
Yeah, that is true. That is,
Ours
you
as
are
well.
right with that.
Yeah. We didn't do
We
too
had it
well either.
available by Zoom too, and still a handful of folks. It always surprises me, but, and I think too, Lisa, we had 2 members of the public at our budget hearing for Penny Baker, and then I think we had 2 members of the public at the deliberative. If it wasn't for the supervisors of the checklist, we'd be talking to ourselves.
Yes.
Well, does that instill confidence that we're doing our jobs correctly, that not too many people show
I
up?
hope so. I always hope for that. There are some, for the first time, some some school board races that we usually, most folks run unopposed, but throughout the SAU, it seems to be like a newly wanted position, so we'll see what happens with that. So we have many folks running for the school boards across the SAU.
Very good.
I think too, we talked about maybe Amy and Kyla and Kathy and I getting together maybe periodically just to go over some things too, that Kathy could relate to the board and Amy could relate to her board and I could relate to my board.
Sure, that makes sense. All right, and I'll let Kathy schedule those. Sounds good.
All right, great. Anything
Very good.
else?
I don't think so. Congrats to skiing.
Yeah, congrats
Yep.
to the girls.
They're very excited. First time since 2009 the girls have brought it home, so they were very excited.
Huh, that's great.
All right.
Well, thanks a lot.
All right, take care, everyone. Reach out if you need anything.
All right, thanks, Kyla. We'll see
Thanks.
ya.
Bye.
Next, we are going to be discussing a Riverside Landing Trail easement. And is June on, or is she gonna be?
June's not tonight, not available, so she sent a memo to the board with her thoughts.
Okay,
And she is asking if the board will decide whether they're going to take it on or not. She said that the other items that were listed could be discussed later, but right now it's just accepting the easement.
is there like a 50,000 foot deal here, or, I think we've kind of kicked it around a little bit, and there was some, perplexity as far as like who might be, taking it on, if we do go forward with, the easement. And I thought that it might be like a conservation commission function, and I think in discussions, like a couple of years ago, at least, they were, I think, willing to do that. So I don't know if, I know as a town, we need to go forward with either accepting it or not, and then we would assign it to the Conservation Commission if they wanted to do this, or what? Is there anything, any conversation or anything from June indicating that is there a downside on this, or?
June was saying just to think about the responsibilities, consider the responsibilities the town would have if they accept it. And do you want to pass the responsibility to the Conservation Commission? Conservation Commission was saying that they were trying to get Parks and Rec involved, or another entity.
She recommends a trail manager?
Yes. That's part of the easement agreement.
Gotcha.
She said as she read it, the town would need to construct and maintain the trail, appoint a trail manager, and maintain notices about permitted uses, etc., and enforce the terms of the easement. She did ask if the PD should be reviewing it too, since enforcement's going to be one of the issues that we would have if we do accept the trail easement.
Has the board had adequate time to review all the information that came from June?
Maybe not the board. I've looked at this a few times, and maybe I'm getting the wrong perception of it, but I thought that, because we do, at least Conservation Commission does do maintenance on, like the parking areas of the different conservation things, and the conservation, the trails themselves, and so they do a lot of like trail maintenance, and I mean that's their task. You know, that's what they're tasked to do. So I thought it was kind of like a slam dunk that they would be the, you know, the go-to group on this easement. And so I really didn't, you know, maybe I have a wrong perception, but it just seemed like it was a simple, yeah, they'll take over the trail maintenance. And in reality, though, this little trail, it just may just be like a piece of property that we can't do anything with, because it was pointed out in a different meeting that we'd have to get like a DES permit in order to make a trail along the river. And whether or not we can actually do that, it's likely that we could, but there's a possibility that we wouldn't get anything as far as like a trail along the Riverside. So it may be just kind of like a duty that we'd be maintaining a trail from the parking lot of the new development down to 250 feet from the river, and then it'd have to end there. So
Yeah, because we don't have the extension goes on to the other property, so is there any point in actually doing this?
I think initially it would have been nice to go, if you went down the trail, hit the river, you can go left until you hit like the Clay Brook area, and then we can't go further into that, and then theoretically you can go right to go ultimately under the bridge down the water and sewer road to the, you know, the gardens, community gardens. That's just the ultimate goal. That's limited by the fact that they can't go further than Clay Brook or that piece of property.
Do we have a time limit on when we need to build and get the trail in place?
I don't think so. I was just thinking that maybe the board should table it until the meeting on the 28th when June would be here, but they can also have the Conservation Commission on to talk about it. Because
Parks and Rec as well, or?
See, I don't think, well, I was kind of like perplexed that Lisa suggested Parks and Rec.
I know.
Yeah, it doesn't
because-
seem to fit.
I mean, if Parks and Rec were to do it, they'd need more help. I don't know, that's why Lisa's still here, so maybe she can speak to that.
Yeah, I would just say that we need resources, probably staffing at this point, just because we have such a creative split with that 2872, and we do so well financially. I know I'm kind of a broken record on that. I'm always so blown away at what a nice arrangement that is, but having said that, adding anything to their plate, I guess at this point they're at capacity. So if we added anything more, philosophically, we're gonna have to sit and look at their budget and look at the staffing that they have and make that leap forward of funding. And so I just don't know if that's something that you all wanna, take those next steps.
I'm just thinking that, you don't maintain any of the other conservation trails.
Right.
So I just was wondering why you'd want to take that on, so. Anyway.
That's a good point. It opens a can of worms. And we do have a lot of trails at Fox Pond Park. We have trails over at the school. And there is a point where if there's a tree across them, we maintain, but there's no real bushwhacking and all of that. It's just miles of property that, we're just so busy maintaining the rest that we just can't get to. So if it's a matter of something like that, a tree falls and it's in the way or something to that effect after a storm, that's one thing, but to really groom the trails and cut back, we're just not able to do it at this time with the framework we have now.
So, I guess,
Should we table this until June's able to talk to us?
A motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we table this until June is able to speak to us about it.
All right. Any discussion? And then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So there is another easement. There's a second packet.
One's a trail and one's a conservation?
One's a
or-
conservation easement at Riverside Landing that, in June's memo says that on November 22nd, the board agreed to conservation easements on 2 parcels. And the easements that she's talking about are required for mitigation by the terms of the wetland permit for the proposed next phase of development of Riverside Landing. So the board did agree to the easements, but the attorney had to review the information, the revisions. And he did review the revisions and said the easements are acceptable. So then she recommends that the board review them again, and if acceptable, you vote to do the following: to approve the town accepting the easements with the following conditions. That's part of her memo, so if you have that in front of you. Prior to the closing on the conservation easement deeds, the town receives donation by Riverside Landing of $5,000 per parcel, or $10,000 total, to be used for the purpose of the monitoring of the parcels, a revised baseline documents for each parcel, an inventory of the current resources and condition of the parcels, and stewardship plans for each parcel that would outline the management actions by the owner, and to authorize Bill as signatory to sign the documents on behalf of the town.
Do you know if those particular conditions have been discussed with Riverside Landing LLC?
Say that again.
Do you know if those conditions have been discussed with Riverside Landing LLC, or
They would have been discussed with them and then put forth to the attorney for him to take a look at and make sure that they were acceptable.
so Mike's not going to be surprised by that $10,000?
No, he already agreed to that at the very beginning. So again, these easements are required for mitigation by the terms of the wetlands permit for a proposed next phase of development for Riverside Landing. So I think June's just looking for a vote to accept the easements and with the conditions that were read.
As described, and our attorney, as described by our attorney.
Right.
So, is there at least a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the easement for Riverside Landing as presented here on a memo dated February 11th, 2022 from
Two easements, I'm sorry.
two easements, sorry. From June Hammond Rowan, Planning Director.
Need anything more specific than that?
Just that you're approving it with the conditions that Kathy just read.
Approving it with the conditions that Kathy just read.
There you go.
All right.
As outlined in her memo.
Trying to cover all the bases.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I still don't think this is a great deal for us. If we want to see continued development in that particular floodplain area, it's the only path forward, but I don't know. I'm not sure I necessarily support continued development in that particular location, and that's my position on this.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Zach, is your concern that the easement's coming to the town? versus another entity, or is it just?
No, I
the
think that that's
actual
where it'll
easement?
end up if the town doesn't take it. So I feel like we're continuing to facilitate development in that particular area, which has always been a sensitive area. I mean, from one perspective, and what we've heard from DES, is that accepting these easements protects that land. Out of that same exact statement, they say that nothing could be done to that land anyway because it's undevelopable. So, us accepting the easements to protect the land that DES already says has to be protected and can't be developed on, I don't know. Seems like burden without benefit.
The Lista Clay Brook piece, that could have been developable. In fact, there was the property that, Roby property, that
So you're talking, which part?
beyond Clay Brook. The property that goes to,
The-
Clay,
You're talking about on the west side of the,
west side, yep.
so that property could be developed?
It could have been. In fact, there was, I
But
think,
DES wouldn't even allow us to put a trail through it?
okay, we couldn't put a trail through it based on the fact that we're giving up that property for remediation on the wetland that they're going to be modifying to suit
So
further
you're gonna
development.
disturb this wetland, and therefore we're gonna protect this wetland.
And that wetland could have, it wasn't, so the whole thing's not a wetland. And you had Clay Brook, going through there, but to the right of Clay Brook, there was property that probably could have been developed on. And, the developer gave that, land in trust because he couldn't access it from the Roby property because, this is probably too much information, but I don't believe that the Roby would have sold that property to the developer. And then it came up because Roby was deceased. So theoretically, it could have been further developed, along the other side of Clay Brook. So we're kind of like, I think, then it got pretty much stuck in an offer of that Clay Brook piece to remediate, and I think we're kind of like making out, because at least that property will be protected in perpetuity. Unfortunately, we're not getting a trail out of it, but nobody's going to be developing it, so it's sensitive.
So you're telling me that someone could, if we didn't accept this, somebody could develop that
Could
property?
have come in from the other side, yeah.
So how is I get that we're protecting maybe that back section,
What's that, like 10 acres or something like that? The whole thing's like 20 acres.
20, yeah, it's the back section that's the most sensitive, right? The section that's closer to the river, so
Yeah,
the turtle
yeah.
nesting areas and such.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, is it actually a bad thing to develop the front
Well,
in a town where we're lacking for opportunity to develop areas?
so that property that they're gonna like, destroy the oxbow there, which theoretically could have been
The-
like,
No, isn't the oxbow on the other side?
that's the remediation, that's what's being
Or
given up.
remediating both, right? We have two different
Across
easements
the
here.
river and next to, Clay Brook and stuff.
Oh, I thought the oxbow section was on the east side, and the Claybrook was on the
It
west
is,
side.
yeah.
Okay. But the oxbow section's not developable.
No, it is.
So
It
they're
is for the
both, they
fact that
both
you-
are.
Well, so the deal is, you can make it developable by, they're actually going to be creating wetlands in that, the overflow there. So they're going to like put a pond in there,
Right.
transplant the plant materials from the wetland area that they're actually going to be filling in to, populate the area that they're making more of a, a remediation or overflow area. So they're pretty much, in fact, the fluvial hydrologist, whatever, that was like working with the developer was very adept at making certain that anything that was being destroyed was actually being created again. So it's developable only for the fact that they're filling it in, recreating, that area in an area that's not currently wetlands and making a wetlands out of it. So they're just kind of like moving things around
Yeah.
and giving us, 40 acres of property that will never be disturbed. So I think we're probably getting as good a deal as we can, with the exception of not getting a hiking trail across that area. But anyway, I guess any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the easements, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Either one. Ayes have it. That's it for that, right?
Yep.
I was gonna, in fact, I am. I'm gonna discuss what Grafton County Broadband Committee. There was a committee established. Nick Coates, who's the town administrator of Bristol. Also, he's a select board member up in Camden. He took over the chairmanship of a broadband committee established in Grafton County, facilitate the 30 some odd towns in Grafton County to do the last mile build out of broadband. It was very opportune that they went through. In fact, they did it because Grafton County can bond, for multiple towns versus a singular town can't bond for themselves with another town to create infrastructure. That was before they passed a bill that allowed towns to get together. In any event, what the broadband committee has done is to create a middle mile backbone project, and they've chosen EX Squared Technology. It's a company that completed detailed level final engineering designs for over half of the first 110 miles of the middle mile backbone that's included in a task order. So there's 13 links through several communities, and that's to include, what the heck is it? Okay. New Hampshire Route 3 to New Hampshire Route 25 to Haverhill Link, Rumney, Wentworth, and Warren, Haverhill to Piermont, Orford to Wentworth, Orford Link, Lincoln to Plymouth, Plymouth to New Hampshire Route 25 to Woodstock Link, including Campton and Thornton, Ellsworth Link, New Hampshire Route 3A to Dorchester, Groton Hebron Link, Alexandria, Holderness, Ashland to Holderness, Ashland Link. So, and basically the target is to provide underserved communities and individuals with fiber, essentially. So there, I guess, if you're interested in this, want to see, how things are going, because initially I went to the first couple of meetings over in Haverhill regarding this committee, and to be frank, I didn't know if it was going to go forward because there was no money at the time, and now there's plenty of money. So there's a lot of ARPA monies that they're going to be taking advantage of. The communities, the county commissions got buckets of money, and there's further money being given to at the county level. And what Nick is doing is providing updates for the different regions and the status of this project. And just conveniently, there's one in Plymouth on the 16th. And it's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Center Lodge. It's the Bradford Room on 8 Merrill Street at PSU. And
That's Wednesday?
pardon me? Yeah. And if you choose to go to it, there's actually a link. I don't think it's in here. Where is it in here? Yeah, there is. Can we like put up something quickly on the town website or something like that? Just invite, including that link and an address or something? Because if you're not able to go to the meeting on the 16th, there's going to be a Zoom on the 17th from 2 to 4. And my assumption is it's that meeting is going to be like rebroadcast on the Zoom, which is kind of odd, I guess, not unless there's another one. But that Zoom is going to be from 2 to 4 on the 17th, and the Zoom address is on that document as well. So maybe we can put up both those. I fully intend to make it. And it's pretty exciting for the fact that things are actually happening and our underserved areas are being solved.
If I understand this correctly, the first section, they're actually talking about building out the backbone. And the second section about the last mile is to put together, it's for designs, right? It's not
Yep.
the implementation.
Yep. And, theoretically, that would cost monies too, but, just putting together designs, that money is at no cost to the towns through ARPA funds. And is there a hint of there's definitely more monies coming down the pipe too, for that matter. So if there's a need to, some expenditure that is needed to build out, that might be offset by federal funds as well, or the possibility at least. Oh, NTIA grant and additional funding opportunities from NTIA to discuss our grant application for construction of the backbone. Discussion was positive. The committee feels strong about our chances of being awarded total funding. That's still the backbone. But anyway, I think it's pretty exciting. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, can I go back and revisit the second easement at Riverside Landing just for a real quick minute?
Okay.
All I need is for the board to make a motion and approve you as signatory on the documents on behalf of the town of Plymouth.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to make Bill the signatory.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay.
Oh. Let's go.
We just approved him.
Ooh, this is my signature on this.
It's already starting.
Additional goodies.
Is that right next to what?
Right next to your name or above it, please?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make that Wednesday evening or the Thursday meeting, but I'm really glad that you're participating on that. It's important.
Yeah, let's hope it's fruitful
Yeah.
and not just kind of lip service, but
Yeah, let's hope it goes beyond the backbone. It seems like we've had backbone project, maybe not to those particular locations or whatever, but it seems like for 20 years we've had fiber backbone projects that don't then emerge as last mile, and that's, to me, the piece that always seems to get forgotten.
maybe I'm being naive, but it really is kind of like galling to have the backbone, or at least the fiber hub that came up 93 sitting over in the D&M building.
I know, it's right there.
So
All
We
the
should
fiber
be-
you could ever imagine, but we can't get it to anybody's house.
we should be lit up the whole town, but whatever.
Yep.
Anyway. From Buffington. That's parking permits and fees.
Good evening. So just as a quick update, I know we've told you we're waiting for the inserts for the parking meters. We got good news that they finally arrived at the company last week, so we should have them next week. I can get out and start putting those in. That will allow once you put a quarter in, to see 15 minutes register, as opposed to the 4 quarters that it is right now when people are just not using it. The next piece, I think we sent out a couple spreadsheets. We're looking for a little bit of guidance right now on some parking permits, specifically down on the Green Street area. One thing we'd like to do is there's 10 spots that we've been monitoring now for about a month that are right across from the kiosk lot on Green Street. Really just haven't been used at all. And I think at this point, based on the phone calls that we had for inquiries about permits, it might be worth turning those spots into permit parking. I think we have 5 or 6 people now that have called, that we do have a list. And so we also have the Substation Lot, that's that dirt lot that Biederman's currently rents out. During the summer, I think there's 19 spots. Winter with the snow, probably 17 spots. And so Biederman's rents that currently for $5,000 a year. And I know that they do sublease some of those spots. So one thing with the parking committee that we've talked about is we just want to make sure that we figure out how many spots they actually need, and then have all the other leases come through the police department for permit parking like everybody else. Currently, our permits are 24 hours. I think I sent you guys a couple different spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And you can see at the top that it kind of goes by the hour right now. Since we've changed the parking for an employee on Main Street, you know, they could pay $8 a day to park. So one of the goals of this permit parking is to get some of the employees off the street, make room for people that want to stop at the businesses, and also give them a place to park where they're not paying $1 an hour to go up to Main Street to work. So what we're looking for is a little bit of guidance in terms of what we want to charge for those permits. Currently, our permits are $600 for a year plus a $15 admin fee. And we've slowly started to raise that to catch up to the changes that were made on Main Street. Right now, the police department, you know, kind of our recommendation was 10 cents across the board for an hour. And that would be, $876 a year. There was some discussion with the parking committee about, you know, do we charge the same amount for that dirt lot as opposed to the spots that are up on Green Street and are a little bit nicer of a spot. And so what we kind of agreed to is that we did have a range, you know, from Green Street for anywhere from 5 cents to 10 cents. And then the other spots, actually on the road, 7 cents to 10 cents. So we just want to get a sense from the board as to where they would like to see our permits set at. You know, if we're going to drop it, currently they're paying $1 an hour to park. So if we drop it to 10 cents, obviously if they're working 8 hours, they're going to pay 80 cents for the day as opposed to the $8 a day. But we just need some guidance if we want it to fall in that 5 cents, 7 cents. This kind of breaks out what the different evaluations would be with those numbers. The 18-hour is something that we discussed in our parking committee meeting. That 18-hour would allow parking from 6 a.m. to midnight, and then no parking until the morning. And what that does, especially in the winter, it allows Joe and the highway guys to get out to plow, to clean the spots, because there are times that some of these vehicles could be parked there all the time. So just another consideration and something for us to talk about and think about.
What does our one town business owner think about that?
No comment. No, I think, it's fine, my staff struggles with it, I have my own spot out back, but yeah, their prices are more than reasonable. The 7 cents, I think was what we were looking at for the most part, was the 7 cents.
Yeah, I believe the 7 to 10 cents was the 10 spots that are actually on Green Street.
Right.
And the 5 to 10 cent range was more of that dirt lot, because it is a dirt lot. It's a little tougher to maintain. You know, we say there's 19 spots. Winter, there's 17 spots because it gets pretty tight in there.
Right.
So that was the variations that we had. So, you know, whether we pick one price for all of them or whether we split it up, it's just something we have to decide so we can, you know, hopefully start moving forward with some of these permits and allow some of these employers and employees to have other places to park and get off the street.
There is no good answer.
Yeah.
There just isn't. Build a garage for that.
Okay.
But currently, those 10 spots that are on Green Street across from the kiosk, no one's using them. They're 10-hour meters, they're just empty. And all these people are calling us saying, hey, I'd pay a fee for a permit, and I'll take that spot, so. and
So what we're
that only
think-
makes sense, right?
Yeah, so we're thinking to put bags over the meters in case it ever changes in the future, and now we're like, no, now we should go back to hourly.
Right.
You know, we don't wanna pull the meters out, just put a bag over and say permit parking only, and start with that. We also discussed talking down by Riverfront. Obviously, we have to leave some for people that enjoy the spot in the summer, but it's something to monitor as the year goes on to see there was any additional spots down that way that we could also make to permit parking if we had to. Anything we can do to try to get people off that main street to allow other people to go and use the businesses.
Any questions or?
No, I support getting people off the main street that are just working.
Yeah, we're just looking for guidance. What should we pay for, or what should we charge for the spots that are paved and kind of maintained daily to the dirt lot that's probably not maintained every day and it's obviously not as good as a paved section, so. We're just looking at, you know, what should we charge for those two different spots for permits?
10 cents
What's
for the
reasonable?
paved and 7 cents for the unpaved.
Yeah, that sounds good. But, so, doesn't the highway plow the dirt lot?
They do, but it's a dirt lot, you know,
Yeah.
it's not flat, it's not paved, it's different.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone down there a few times and you're like, wow, it's a dirt lot.
Yeah. I think 10 and 7, and if you sell out of them, then we'll talk about increasing the prices next year.
Oh, they'll sell out of them.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah, I
have
mean, we didn't
6.
even advertise and people just
Right.
call all the time looking for permits, you know, I mean, people don't wanna
Pay
pay
by the
$8
hour.
a day
Yeah.
for working, and that's not fair either. I mean, $1 an hour for somebody that's coming to visit for an hour is different than someone that's trying to work to take home a paycheck.
So are these gonna be 18-hour parking or 24-hour parking?
Yeah, that was the next.
Oh, yeah.
I would go for the 18 personally.
18, yeah.
Yeah. Just highway needs to maintain them from midnight to 6 AM like any other street, so.
Mr. Wiggett, do you have a comment?
Business that pays for 3 of those parking and trying not to raise our rents, increasing the $1,800 I'm already paying for parking passes for businesses at Main Street. Kind of hurts knowing that it's gonna go up, because that's just gonna cause us to have to raise rents on businesses that are, you know, the businesses in my buildings are, you know, it's like sunflowers. You know, going back to her and be like, hey, you're gonna have to raise your rent $200. It's like, at some point, you're gonna wanna have to raise that revenue. I mean, I get it, like, town, we wanna make some money, but some of those businesses, like, they're on the cusp and raising it up, because I buy passes for the barber shop and for the optometrists and for the jewelry spot. So, something to keep in mind, like, going up $100 is one thing, going up 200, it's expensive.
Right, and so I think right now that's what the complaint is from a lot of the employees on Main Street, is that, you know, it went up to $1 an hour, so now they're
Yeah.
paying by the hour.
Yeah.
And so everybody's looking for a permitted spot and just trying to find out what is the fair price for a permitted spot. Because we did raise Main Street, you know, so trying to keep it even, but, you know, we want to keep employees down there too, and we don't want people going elsewhere. So, yeah, it is tough. There is no good answer. There's no easy answer. These were just the numbers that we could come up with that we thought were reasonable. And, you know, we went to the 18 hours just because I think it would help the highway guys, leaving some times for them to get out there and plow and clean up and take care of the spots. So we all agreed 18 hours then, 7 cents for the substation, that dirt lot, 10 cents for the Green Street, those 10 spots on the Green Street.
Yeah, and Bruce, if you
Yeah.
don't have the spreadsheet in front of you, that factors out to $876 a year for the paved spots and $651 for the dirt.
Which is still way better than $1 an hour.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you need a motion to go ahead, or do we need to get this going, or you just want, looking for our opinion, or?
You need a public hearing on this, don't
Oh,
you?
that's true, too.
You need a public hearing on changing these rates.
I don't know how they changed the rates from
Yeah, I
last
don't know
time.
how they changed them last time.
We held a public hearing. There was 2 of them, and nobody showed up. Remember those?
Yep.
So you just need a public hearing, and we can put that together with them.
Sure.
Perfect.
We probably have time for the 28th, Kathy?
Sure.
We'll have to look at the 28th. It may be the first meeting in March, depending, okay. What about the vendor spot?
So the vendor spot will be $1,000 for the year.
That's what it is now. That's what it's
Right.
always been.
Yeah, so if you look at it, I can't remember the breakdown. What was the breakdown for the?
It used to be 500,
Since I've been here.
yeah, but it was 5.
I think it breaks down to 11 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was already high, so we didn't feel that it would be appropriate
To raise that one anymore.
Okay.
We'll work on that.
Anything else? Good. Thanks.
Next date. Kevin? Do you want to propose fee schedule for permits? Evening.
So, came to you tonight about the fire prevention side of the fire department. Presently, so let me start by saying that generally within the fire service, there's really only 2 ways for us to collect revenues. I know we had a few meetings ago discuss increase in revenues or finding revenue sources for the town. The fire department, medical billing, so our ambulance company, that side of it can collect revenues, and the other side generally is fire prevention. Presently, how we do fire prevention is we charge $15 for a permit. That's for your oil burners, LP, all that stuff. Any kind of inspection we do for safety features, for new installations, we charge $15. Now, you build a new house, you put in a gas stove, a gas furnace, one of those gas fireplaces, etc. You can have 6, 7 appliances and systems on one permit. That one permit is $15 for all that work. Now, it's very congested. It's very congested for me to track it and to inspect it. And if something fails, we don't really know what fails on the permit because it's all just written in a very tiny spot. So in doing some research and my previous employment, I realized that this really should be updated. And so I'm coming in front of you tonight to propose a new fee schedule for the fire department. What this will do is that this will allow us on the fire prevention side to basically start in the town to start getting reimbursed for all of its efforts. Now, every time we go out and do an inspection, there's a cost associated with it. There's a cost for fuel, there's a cost for the time that we put in for actually physically going on site, as well as the research we have to do. I can't just show up at your house and do an inspection. I got to do research on what's been changed, what guidelines, what standards do I have to be updated on so I can inspect to make sure it's safe. So there's a lot of effort put into it. I don't know if, do you guys have the fee schedule in front of you that I emailed Kathy?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So I know it's kind of hard to follow, I imagine. But it's pretty standard across the industry. So what I did is I pulled several towns. I tried to go with towns comparable to us. For example, Guilford, Tilton Northfield Fire District. I also referenced the town of Derry's fee schedule. I did some research on the Builders Association. I also pulled Laconia, City of Laconia's, which was my previous employment's fee schedule, because I knew that one well. And I just kind of looked through them. I mostly focused on Guilford and Derry. Now, I will say that the town of Bristol, which is a town that we could compare to easily, they don't charge, and that's something they're looking into at this point, but they haven't got that far yet. So what I did is I went across the rates, and I did look at Derry's, A, because it was easily accessible, but B, I was just curious. So I obviously didn't charge as much as they did for some things, but they had a lot of good information in there that helped me build this. So that's kind of where we're at. With that being said, I did do a quick cost analysis fee analysis, if you will. I know that in the year 2021, we did 123 permits. Now, keep in mind, this isn't going to generate a huge source for us, but it's something more than we're doing now, and it's going to help fix some of the issues I have. So, 2021, we did 123 permits, and each permit was for $15. Now, what we brought in for the year was $1,845. Now, I went through those permits, which was not an easy task, but I figured out that roughly half of them had multiple permits. I didn't go through all 123 of them as I couldn't find some of them, but out of that, so we did a factor of half. So half of them, which is 61.6 out of 123. So this is very conservative numbers I drew up for you guys, just to do it cost. Long story short, excuse me, there was a difference. The total for, if we did with the new system, at a very conservative number, was $8,685, give or take. That's a difference of $68.40 from the present system we have, and very, very conservative. I stress that, conservative number. So what I suspect is if we actually went through and separated everything we could and actually started billing or started collecting permits for some of the stuff that we don't collect presently, we'd easily be over $10,000. So now that's going to vary with year to year because, as we know, houses aren't being built every year. Businesses come in and out. The commercial side of the town, Tenny Mountain Highway, those, when we're inspecting the furnaces, mechanical systems, and those, that takes a lot of effort. And prime example, Market Basket has 6 rooftop units. That's a whole separate code that we have to dig into and research before we go out there, and we have to climb up on the roof and commit hours and hours up there inspecting those. So there's going to be a higher charge for doing a commercial system, as you see in there, versus a residential. Residential is very low. I think it's very fair, and it's, I don't really want to go up on those, but the commercial side, it takes a lot more effort on us and time. With that also being said, you can see the life safety plans review, the commercial, there's a cost, a fee associated with that, because that, I go in to do a commercial plans review for, a new Market Basket coming into town. I'll easily spend over 6 hours just reviewing the code, and then another 4 hours reviewing the plans and applying the code to it. So it's a lot of time, manpower hours that we're committing to that. So this is a revenue source that I propose to you guys. It's not going to be a lot of money, but it's something more, and it's also going to help us. It's going to help me track the fire prevention system we have in place, and I'm looking to revamp it so we can make it more applicable to today's standards. Questions or thoughts I can help you with?
Good. One thing that just stood out. So fireworks, $50. What's that? That's,
So the fireworks, if you actually look under it, so in the state of New Hampshire, Class C fireworks are legal. Anybody, you or I, could walk into the store and buy them and light them off. It's when we're going to bring in a commercial show, a Class B show.
okay.
And if you look under there, there's actually a manpower. So plus details. So it's 4-hour minimums or 65 per hour for manpower. That's per person. So if we have a Class B show comes in town, say one of the big vendors want to come into a 4th of July fireworks show, or on the west side of town, it's going to be us to go review the site, do the measurements of 300 feet from the launch site, and to make sure that the wind and all that stuff, there's no fire issues. And we have to drop a life safety plan for any commercial fireworks show. So that's just to kind of recoup some of that cost, and then plus there'll be a detail affiliated with it.
One thing that kind of strikes home, so you got Firewatch, is that like for a slash pile?
So the Firewatch, Firewatch is a different animal. That's for in the event that, we'll say, what would be a good example? Say the hotel out in Tenny Mountain Highway, the fire alarm system crashes, or they get struck by lightning and the system crashes for the night. For us to go out, for them to say they have 50% occupancy, and there's really nowhere else for them to go for whatever reason, by law, they have to evacuate the building. No one's allowed to stay there for the night because there's no fire alarm system. But the sprinkler system's still active. So they can, in turn, have the option of putting a firefighter in the building to do Firewatch. and to monitor that in the event we can evacuate the building. That's just a really crude example. There's many other reasons why you could need a fire watch. Or we have, say the Flying Monkeys is packed and they're doing a certain show that requires fire watch because of occupancy. It's another example.
Okay.
So.
Chairman?
Yes.
If I might add, one of the things that we found too in our research was that a lot of the vendors are quoting those types of fee structures in their quotes and charging the property owner, but we're not receiving that.
So.
Because our fees are so low and they haven't been changed in the 30 years I've been here.
So I had a funny story. It's funny because it's ironic to this. I've been doing research on this for a couple weeks, and a gentleman came in. There was a plumber that asked for a permit. I gave it to him, and I was like, "Yeah, it's $15 for whatever you're gonna do." And he kind of chuckled at me. He goes, "You should be charging more, man. I charge $65." So what that told me was they're charging people at a higher rate and then keeping the difference of the $15. So I kind of chuckled when he's telling me to do that. So it's buried in their costs generally. So it's just kind of a funny story referencing the chief. But yeah, they are generally doing the industry standard, whatever the highest towns that they deal with, which what I'm seeing is Derry and Concord. I did drop Concord's fee. They have a very complex fee. I mean, they charge for everything and much higher than what we're doing. But I don't think that's fair to the town to go much higher than this.
So the target generally is like contractors or developers?
So the way it works is if you install a furnace, you're going to hire a plumber to come in and do your furnace. By law, the contractor has to come to us and draw a permit, and then we inspect it to make sure his or her standards are safe when they install it. So it's a fact check thing. So when they charge you that $8,500 for a new furnace, generally their labor fee and all that, they have the permit fee buried within that.
Okay.
So I guess in theory it could go back on the property owners or the residents that way. So, but generally it's buried within the costs.
I know.
Yeah.
Just had a heating unit put in. I'm gonna go with that.
All right. So you're seeking at least the board approval to go ahead with a public hearing and...
Yes, if that's what needs to happen next, yeah. This is new to me, so bear with me. Being in front of you guys, so.
So does the board have any suggested changes from what Kevin has recommended here to his fee schedule? No? Okay.
Kind of hard to...
It's knowing.
Yeah.
Nothing here seems out of
There's
whack.
nothing outlandish here.
This is, yeah, I'm not looking to, hurt anything or, this is all pretty much standard stuff, what we do as a fire department, inspections routinely. It's just for us to get compensated to it because it does take a lot of effort and time, and for the town to be compensated as, it's our resources we're investing into this. So.
Okay.
I did just the fact check, I did reach out to Scott and Jane, making sure that on the planning side, we're not charging town or residents already that submit building applications for a life safety evaluation, which it turns out we were doing a residential. So when I get residential ones, they're already charging for that, and I'm just doing it on their behalf. So I was moving that from life safety plans review, so that's why it's just commercial.
Okay. Well,
So we'll do the same thing. Kevin will try to get you in at the next meeting. If not, it'll be the first meeting in March.
Okay.
With the police department. All right?
and well, everyone's in agreement, right? for that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I heard yes all around.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
No problem.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could it be? We just had, next is committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report?
I think I saw one from, there's something from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I think she prepared that for.
She prepared that for us.
It was nice to see. Planning board has started to review the subdivision plans, and some of the other, what's the other document that just slipped out of my head? Subdivision and
I didn't see last Thursday's.
Site plan review.
site plan review, yep.
Okay.
So those two documents, starting to review those and see if there's some opportunities for modernizing or changing them at all. And then also we've started to take a closer look at the master plan again. And they did make a good point that it's probably time for all the boards to just check in on the master plan and take a look and see that if you haven't reviewed it recently, there is a nice spreadsheet style, summary at the back end that does say, in bold, select board, should be paying attention to this item, or conservation committee, or even fire department. There's department level kind of recommendations of things we should be looking at. It's probably a good time to do a pass on that at some point, do a working session and walk through it and see what our progress is, if there are any things we should be working on, or
I know it's more of a strategic plan with principles that need to, are assigned to be able to do that. And I think there was an issue back when that was being set up that, well, who's going to check in? Who's going to make sure that they're meeting their due date?
yeah. Though it seems like the responsible thing to do is for all of us to do it.
Somebody should take a lead, though. Make sure that.
In terms of guiding the other committees and departments and things?
Yeah. Maybe that should be more of a town manager role. Take a look at the master plan dates and times and
Progress, if we've forgotten anything, or
and you also have a new assistant town planner. This might be old news, but what's his Joseph?
yeah, Joseph. I've had a couple conversations with him. He's very enthusiastic. I think it's a good addition to the team.
Very good.
I went to a water and sewer meeting.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And guess what I'm doing next week? I'm going on a tour.
Ooh.
And I actually asked for it. Jason and I are going to spend a couple hours.
So you can do the solid waste treatment?
Yeah. So see how it all works.
I've done that before. It's pretty
I worked at
exciting.
Mass Water Resources, and they had a tour. You could do day tours and take you all out. That was cool. It's interesting to see what we take for granted.
Will they give you samples or?
Well, if I ask, I'll bring something in on a platter or something. But we're still struggling the whole Zoom, because they asked me to do it via Zoom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, see if I can go in person next time, because they're not mic'd up. It's fairly hard to hear. You can't see people because you're so far away. And
Okay.
it's still interesting. They're going through their different projects and the funding and whatnot.
Neat. Anything else?
Nothing on the campus community council. But I could solicit the group to see if there's anything worthy of bringing to discussion.
It's a quarterly deal, right?
Yeah.
What's the next quarter due?
Well, it would be, it's a semesterly, more or less.
Oh, okay.
But this would be spring semester. Started a few weeks back. We'll see, we can canvass the group. It's too bad Bruce is gone. And see if there's anything that anybody wants to bring up as a discussion point. But if there's nothing to discuss, I don't really see the point of having a meeting.
Do off-campus housing people generally show up, or at least
That's generally who is there. It's the
Landlords, right?
landlords and the campus and us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I don't have anything for discussion with that, but Okay. We're not gonna read the Parks and Rec thing, are we?
No, I did not, I mean, we could, if we want, we could look at the highlights. I could kind of quickly go through and see if there's anything. They offered 4 basketball programs with record-breaking numbers, which should help their revenues. Let's see. Fox Park slide has been repaired. The Fox Park rink is in great condition. The cross-country ski trails are in great shape, at least until the weather doesn't cooperate.
Couple more days.
Probably the most notable thing is their Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is on Wednesday, March 16th at 5 p.m. at the elementary school. And they'd like to thank Kathy and Ann at the town hall for all their support, and the employees at the town hall for all their support and guidance.
And also they revamped their website. Particularly excited about their new edition, which showcases the town of Plymouth and all it has to offer. Please check it out.
And they're gonna start taking credit cards as well.
Oh, yeah?
Police department is too. We're working on it.
Just dumb question, but are they doing similar to like the town clerk? So there's like a $5 fee or whatever, or
It'll be
percentage?
just the
2.5% or whatever it is, the
2.59%.
credit card company
Yeah,
makes you charge.
There's no additional $5 or $10 fee.
okay. Yeah, even still. Look it up. Town manager update?
Not today, but we do need non-public for personnel.
All right.
Did you meet with any of the departments, specifically the department heads meeting that you were gonna give us an update on?
That is true. We did have a department head meeting. And I did not bring a write-up up here with me, but we, we're talking about ways that, you know, we might be able to bring more revenue into the town, and gosh, put me on the spot, Ted.
Well, it's right there.
Yeah, but I didn't bring that up with me. I had like 4 pages of stuff that I wrote down, but just what everybody was talking about. We're gonna meet again on the 16th, so I'll have something for you at that time.
Right, one of the other things I think we talked about you bringing to department heads in one of your upcoming meetings was to start some of the CIP inventory work.
Yes, they did send me their inventory list, which I've been putting into a spreadsheet that I was gonna send to the board.
Great.
I still have 2 departments that I'm collecting from. Also, you know, talk to them about, well, I did reach out to different towns to get lists of their employees, the number of employees for the size of the community that they work in. And I've got another spreadsheet with all of that listed, and some of the department heads gave me, you know, some statistics from their own departments to put with that. So I'll be sending that to you as well.
All right. Very good, thank you. So, any public comments? Any public?
They all left.
Okay, and we need to go into non-public?
Yes, for personnel.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into non-public according to RSA 91-A:3 to A personnel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Ann, your vote?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Bill? Aye.
Motion to come out of non-public?
Well, actually, I was hoping to, oh, I guess you, never mind, yeah, okay, we moved and seconded? All right, Zach, your vote?
Aye.
Mary Ann? Ted?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. So therefore, need a motion to, you know, accept this contract?
I'll make a motion to remove the union contract for fire and police.
Okay,
Second?
moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, oh, excuse me, aye.
So Bill, does that mean that what they have just approved is the preliminary numbers to go to town meeting for approval? But if town meeting does not approve that,
Yep.
then that vote
Oh, so
basically.
should we hold off on signing until after? Okay.
No, because what you're saying to the union is that you will put it forward to the town. Doesn't mean that you're approving it before the
Right.
town does.
Okay, gotcha.
So if they,
It's 14th, right?
yeah.
So I'll amend my
You don't have to.
motion. I don't have an amendment.
It's all right. You understand what you're doing.
We all understood the spirit of it.
Scared. Is that what you said? You're scared?
It was like the second to last page, something like that.
Wow, this one?
He's got the slip, I think he's the check on it.
Money out.
Thought we are gonna discuss,
You know what's funny? I gotta watch.
Waste.
She hasn't told me that.
thought we're gonna do like waste again, Casella. What we're gonna talk about waste?
Say that, I can't hear you.
Casella weren't they gonna come?
Oh, he's gonna be on another, in a couple of weeks, the next meeting, I think.
Okay, great.
He actually had a medical situation at home, so
Okay.
he couldn't be here.
And just a quick question on the warrant articles. I would assume that police and dispatch have their own warrant article, right?
I sent out the warrant.
I mean, it looks confusing. If you looked at it once, it looked like some of the budgets were in the general, like.
Yep.
Why are some in there and some are different?
Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to be more consistent
Yep.
with the way warrant articles should be written. The only ones that are separated are the ones that we have to take money out of capital reserve or special revenue funds.
Or have
Those-
offsets.
Yeah, those are the offsets. We have to have those separate. So if there's ever a year that we don't have offsets, then that budget could actually go up with everybody else. There's a special I have an offset. It made me a little
The
nervous
SRO one has to be
because we have an offset from the school.
And then parking has to have its own. We just need it offset.
Yeah. And the police department gets offsets from, what fund do you get an offset from?
Well,
I think this, no, what's the other fund?
dispatch we get offsets from the town.
The dispatch is in with all the other ones in Arkansas.
Right, but which,
Fire and ambulance, that's under the general.
yeah,
Which one did you say it was? It's one of ours that's in the general, isn't it?
right, dispatch.
Yeah.
But we get,
Dispatch is in general.
So we got parking.
Parking is separate, police department is separate, and the resource officer is separate.
What is the offset within the police department for that article? There's a reason why that was separated.
Authorizing a withdrawal of 25,000 from the police special detail fund.
Special detail.
oh, yeah, we just talked about that. That's why. Yep.
So,
So that's why.
yeah,
That's why.
in the past, they've all been separate.
Yeah,
If we can get away with not having them be separate, that's what we'd like to.
Well, that was my question, because I knew one of them was stuck in there, but the offset for the detail.
If we ever not take money from detail, you can be up with the rest of us.
Right?
And is that so that if it gets voted down, then all of those get level funded? Is that
No.
why not separate them all out?
That's what we used to do.
No, I understand what, but why group them now instead of keeping them separate?
Well, because last year at town meeting, we were able to put them all together because we voted differently last year. So this year, we just kept the ones that we could group together the same.
So last year we grouped them,
Yes.
and so thus this year we decided to do that again.
Every item is individually written out under that warrant article.
Yeah, I just was looking at it.
It's just that the ones that need to be separated because of their special are separated. But anyone can amend anything. Some towns don't even list those other items underneath the main warrant article. We still can see it all, it's just a little separate. Not as much as it was.
We're still meeting, by the way. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.